Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done a tutorial. I've been a little busy on my end. So we're going to start back up with a quick and informative tutorial focusing on character replacement in documents or photos. Mainly we're going to focus on documents specifically because there are a lot of tutorials out there that teach you how to replace things in photos. So I did some Googling and I found this report card from 1962. And if you happen to be fairly old and this is your report card, I apologize for exposing the fact that you got a C in arithmetic and then obviously got grounded right afterwards because then you had an A-. So we're going to help this student out and we're going to turn this C in arithmetic into a B. We could turn it into an A, but I don't feel like being that nice. So it's super simple, and some of the newer versions of Photoshop, I'm going to go over that first, and then I'll briefly touch on a more manual way, I guess, to replace some of that. Now, the biggest obstacle that we're going to come over is the fact that this is handwritten. It's not like we are replacing typed text. So we have to be a little more exact when replacing some of these characters. So get out your selection tool, and the square will be good, the rectangle. And you can hit M or Shift M. We'll kind of go back and forth there between the rectangle and the circle. And make a selection around this C. You want to go over the line and make it, about as big as possible. Actually, we're going to make it a little taller as well. So I think that's good. And then we're going to go up to the patch tool, and that is J or Shift J. And we're going to select within our marching ants and choose a B. I think we're going to go with this B over here because it looks pretty normal. It'll be less obvious to copy that B over here than this B, which is kind of more unique. So click and drag and try to get that line, that bottom line, as close to on target as possible. We'll have to go through and clean it up. That's fine. I think that looks really good. And at the same time, we're going to have to clean up some of this area. And using the patch tool still, and I'm going to take out this plus because, maybe he didn't get a B+, and instead we're going to put in, we're not going to use that negative sign because it's right next to it, and it's pretty obvious that we used it. I mean, we could. We can just select an area over here and then, do that number, and then select it here, hit Control T, and then turn it. You can do that. And then just kind of clean up some of the areas again with the patch tool. This is really patch tool heavy, and it's pretty easy to use. If you are on a super old version of Photoshop that doesn't have patch tool, that's pretty unfortunate. And this is going to take a little more painting and unfortunate steps to get that going. Anyway, of course, nobody would ever do this to their report card, right? Right. So we're going to clean this area up here. And, well, because if you zoom out, to there, you really can't tell a whole lot. But if you zoom back in to about here, you can see that this line is a little weird. So what we can do is take your rectangular selection tool and select, somewhere around here. Hit Control C, Control V, it'll copy and paste into a new layer over here, that particular selection. Hit Control T, and then drag it outward to stretch it, make it look like it's kind of supposed to be there. That way the lighter blocks here match the lighter blocks above, and it looks like it's supposed to be there a little more. And there it just kind of looks like a solid line that's more similar to the ones around it. Another issue that we have is this is a very light looking B. This very first quarter, this particular teacher used a darker pen that, I don't know if it bled more or what the issue is. But if you zoom in pretty close, you can tell that there's more red. So I'm going to make a stamp of this, Control-Alt-Shift-E, and that will give me my layer 1 and my background together without having to combine those. And I'm going to select around this B and this negative sign, because clearly he got a B negative in his class. So go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, and Levels. And that'll make a mask around this area. You can kind of see that there. So we need to go into our reds and bring the darker arrow in a bit. That'll make the selection a bit more blue. I think that's good. And then go back out to RGB, all of them, and make this whole selection a little bit darker. We have a bit of yellowing in some of the white areas because we're upping the contrast essentially. So we can go in and mask out this area because the levels adjustment layer already has a mask. Just go in and paint with your black brush this whole area here. Of course, not undoing the work we just did to the negative sign and the B. And because I'm a stickler, you can still kind of see some of this yellowing. And that's a pretty good difference. Sweet, and that's really about all there is with that. With there now B negative in math. But it's better than C. And for some reason, for people who cannot use your patch tool, what you would need to do is also use your selection tool and, I don't know, work with this C, I suppose. Select around a B, try to get, you know, as little other characters as possible selected in that. Control C, Control V to copy and paste that B into a separate layer, and do one of those numbers, and then you'll want to either erase or mask out this area here with the A so it doesn't look like it's just cutting it off. And do the same thing with the levels to make that look like it's one of these darker pins. And it's the exact same principle, and then, you know, mask out the areas around it that are yellow. But simple tutorial. You get us back on track with more tutorials up through the holiday at least, and hope that helps out.